other principle that is fundamental to an ambassador for peace is that marriage is a sacred institution and the family is a school of love. This is the most fundamental realization that Reverend Moon is bringing, I believe, to all of the faith communities. That the primary virtues of spouses' love lead on to fidelity and commitment. That's why we're asking all the ambassadors for peace to participate in the blessing of marriage. We want to have your marriage blessed and rededicated before God under the blessing of your own pastor, your own religious leader. But we want to unify those religious leaders so that we also strengthen the families collectively in our society. Therefore, we believe that there's a man for every woman and a woman for every man. So if you're not married yet, we might find you someone here tonight. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? You come here alone and go home as a pair. All right. But this is a blessed marriage, so it's a commitment. It's a covenant. That's why Father Moon called the religious leaders of the world to come together and bless their congregation. Millions have joined this blessing. He also calls for the interreligious and interracial blessing, that we go beyond the boundaries. So Archbishop Stallings, who traveled with Reverend Moon in the 50-state tour, became inspired, and he also was touched by Reverend Moon's ministry, but he was a single Catholic, independent Catholic priest, African-American Catholic congregation, and somehow he really understood the message, and he asked Father Moon to help him find a wife, and this is the result. Amen. All right. I heard there may be another one on the way. And I want to tell you, Archbishop Stallings is the happiest priest in town. That's what it's all about. Blessing the marriage. Dedicating our marriage to God. No adultery. No infidelity. And no divorce. These are fundamental teachings of all the world religions. That's why Father and Mother Moon have been anointed by Jesus and really received the blessing of God to bring about this breakdown of the barriers of all religions and really strengthen the family in every community. Pastor Barrett also was one of those ministers that had traveled with Reverend Moon quite extensively, and he had been divorced for 10 years, and he had 7 children with his wife. And somehow through the blessing movement, he called his wife. She came back home after 10 years of divorce. And they've been married for 5 years now. Since that time, 5 years they came back together. So the ambassadors for peace can heal families and can bring about the reunion of love and family. That's what it's really all about. Therefore, the blessing of marriage has been something we're carrying on continuously throughout the world in all 120 nations. Where Father Moon just traveled throughout the world over 120 days. He held blessing ceremonies in each convocation. And the religious leaders we find are very, very strong about this. The Muslims, the Christian leaders, here's Dr. Wyatt T. Walker, who's been really a strong ambassador for peace in Harlem at Canaan Baptist Church. He's retired now, but he's doing well. He lives in Virginia with his wife. He's really strong with us, a very important civil rights leader, Rabbi Ben-Ami. When the Muslim leader, the Christian leader, and the Jewish leader bless the marriage together in these large ceremonies, how beautiful it is. It really strengthens and edifies the whole community. So, these are the fundamental principles. God is the parent of humankind. Humans are essentially spiritual in nature. One I didn't talk about is we should live for the sake of others. And marriage is a sacred institution. The family is a school of love. The 5th principle is that interreligious and international cooperation are essential to world peace. Religion is the source of humanity's deepest values and highest ideals. It's a powerful instrument for personal transformation. Religious disunity, however, can shape individuals and society negatively and can block the way to peace. Therefore, we're working on bringing and fostering understanding among religious leaders and political leaders in cooperation together. That's why when you see this title in yellow here, Interreligious and International, means that the religious leaders or the prophetic people must come together with one mind about peace, one God, the family, no divorce, no adultery, and then international leaders or political or civic leaders must be supported by the religious leaders. and must be encouraged and strengthened by the religious leaders. The prophet and the king must come together. Isn't that right? The prophetic voice must come together with the secular voice, and the two must build the kingdom. They need each other. That's why Mr. Jim Flynn is the national president of the Ambassadors for Peace Association in America, also president of the American Family Coalition. And we now have 6,000 ambassadors for peace in the United States. And tonight we're probably going to have 150 new ambassadors for peace inducted. And I believe that this movement is going to really strengthen the soul of America. It will change the fabric and the basic structure of the foundation of America in terms of reinstituting God and family as our basis. So that's why Ambassadors for Peace, your mission is very, very important. Here's Congressman Charlie Rangel. He's an Ambassador for Peace from Harlem, New York. We continue to meet regularly on Capitol Hill. Here's Congressman Davis, our co-chairman, and I, along with Bishop Stallings and Dr. Thomas Walsh, the tall gentleman there, is the Secretary General for Ambassadors for Peace worldwide. Mr. Gary Jarman, Reverend Doherty, and Reverend Mr. Flynn. What do Ambassadors for Peace do? Ambassadors for Peace have strengthened their understanding of the moral underpinnings that are necessary for a good society, and then they work with the elected officials. Here's Imam Haitham Bandachi. He's chaplain of the Garden Grove, California Police Department. He's also the former chairman of the Islamic Center of Orange County, California. He's here with Congressman Cannon from Utah. And Ambassadors for Peace work with civic and political leaders. Here's Imam Jode from Denver, visiting Senator Allard. And here's California's very own, Mr. Bento Leo, with Reverend Reeves. They're visiting Barbara Lee, who just gave us a letter. Now you see the result. Reverend Reeves and Mr. Leo continually visit Barbara Lee's office. What happens? She starts to become part of the Ambassadors for Peace movement. She strengthens us with the endorsements of her letters, and she's ready to help us with legislation that support God and freedom and family in America. Isn't that right? That's what Ambassadors for Peace do. This is in Barbara Lee's office in Washington on Capitol Hill. We take Ambassadors for Peace from the Middle East into the Congressman's office all over Capitol Hill and have the dialogue and discussion. This was a pretty hot dialogue. We're actually laughing now because the thing exploded at Congressman Cannon's office. This is Dr. Ben-Ami from the University of Tel Aviv, a Jewish leader, and with his back to us is Dr. Hassan, who's a Palestinian leader, and conflict broke right out at the table, and it was all right. We were all unarmed, and it worked out fine. But actually, the reason we're laughing here is because it just came up. But everybody there is already an ambassador for peace. So they're committed to work it out. They don't just get upset and then leave or go in separate paths. We stay together. Just like marriage. Anybody married here that's had a few hot discussions with your spouse? The way you work it out, though, the way you cool it down is you stay together. Right? And listen to your wife.